I have exploding head syndrome. This is not caused by a microchip implanted without my knowledge or radiation leaking into my house. It is a recognized medical condition. As I'm falling asleep, I hear the deafening crack of a bullet being discharged from a firearm. A sharp, bright light flashes in front of my eyes, and I start suddenly back awake. There is no gunshot, no light, no danger to anything but my increasingly frayed nerves. It is all in my mind. I can't afford to pay some fancy medic to try and help me, and even if I could, I'd be throwing away money. The causes and possible treatments of exploding head syndrome are stuck in the realm of speculation, all of which has left me to get on with my life as best I can. Overall, my condition has not impacted too negatively on me. I've struggled to find a lady friend who wants to sleep next to a man who jumps up suddenly at least once a night, then sits there sweating and cussing. I've been more successful in my professional life, working my way to deputy manager of a small convenience store, and I recently bought my first house. It is detached with a small scrap of land out back, and it was just within my budget. The house needed a lot of work doing on it when I bought it. The walls were bare or peeling. Stuffing was sticking out of the arm of the sofa like pus emerging from a lanced boil. The shower leaked, the kitchen faucet sputtered lukewarm water only, and when it rained heavily, a rank smell rose up out of the drains. When I made manager at the store, the hike in my wage would allow me to do the place up. Until then, I thought this was how it was going to be. And then she knocked on the door. It was early evening, and I was starting a six-pack. I ignored the gentle tapping at first. I had lost touch with my family. My friends never called round, and I knew none of my neighbours. I really wasn't interested in being hassled by a stranger. But the tapping continued, and now whoever it was turning the volume up. I went to see what the hell they wanted, swung open the door, ready to chew them out, and froze. She must have been over 6 feet tall. Her hair draped over her shoulders like a blonde waterfall, and her eyes were the prettiest blue I had ever seen. She also had some of those foxy, oversized glasses front and center on her face. She was a sight, a rare and wonderful vision. I hitched up my shorts. "Ma'am," I said as a gentleman would. She smiled at this. There were no cracks in her teeth, no stains. "Good afternoon," she said. "My name is Maisie, and I'm a producer working on a new show. We are in your area today looking for members of the public to participate in our pilot episode." I took a swig of my beer for courage, looked her straight in the eye and asked, "How much?" It turned out there were no dollars on offer, but what I could get was a top-to-bottom redecoration and refurbishment of my house. New wallpaper, new furniture, new fittings, the works. In return, all I needed to do was give the show's crew unlimited access to my home to film the makeover, and to let them film my reaction when I saw the transformation. "Sure," I told the beautiful Maisie. "I could do that." She preferred to stand rather than using my sofa, so I used it to rest the contract on while I signed it. The deal was done. I was elated. It turned out good things did drop onto your lap. You just had to be in the right place at the right time. Maisie's smile, meanwhile, could have been seen from space. "Amazing," she said. "We'll start tomorrow." She turned to leave. I silently cursed my exploding head syndrome. Without it, maybe, just maybe, she would have spent the night with me. She hesitated. The thought flickered once more in my head. Maybe. Then she looked back and said, "There's just a couple more things. Very small things, if that's okay." "Anything," I murmured. "Amazing. The first thing, would you be able to give me contact details for a couple of your friends? We would like to have input to the makeover, to make it extra special." "Of course," I nodded enthusiastically, like a jack-in-the-box that had just sprung out into the open. I know just the boys. Amazing. And the final thing. Can I have a skin sample? When I arrived at Al's apartment an hour later, the back of my hand was stinging like hell under the band-aid. Maisie had explained that my skin tone and texture would be used to calculate the perfect wall coverings to be in harmony with the real me. I did not want to appear wimpy, so consented. I tried not to think about the way she had produced a small scalpel from her shoulder bag with another perfect smile and pressed Al's buzzer. Al worked in construction when his back was not playing him up and had the most tremendous handlebar mustache. No car was better waxed than Al's face fuzz. He welcomed me in. Tom was already there. Tom was on benefits. If he ever committed a crime, any potential witness would describe him as wearing a battered old pair of brown leather boots. Tom loved his boots like Al loved his tash. I was mighty fond of both of them. I shared my news with them, a bit worried at first that they would be angry I'd given their details to Maisie. But I need not have worried. She had already been in touch and had already worked her charm on them. With big grins on our faces, we settled down to the game. This was cards night, when Tom, Al and me gathered around the table and bet penny stacks and agreed what was wrong with the world. I arrived home sometime around midnight and drunkenly wandered around my house, imagining what it would look like once it was transformed. The next day, I was pretty hazy and had almost forgotten that Maisie had told me I would be picked up after work. When she pulled up, her hair tied back, all regal-like, the stupid, annoying things that had happened at the store that day faded into the distance. I had booked all my annual leave to begin in a couple of days, which is how long Maisie had told me the makeover would take, so I could enjoy my new domestic surroundings. Perhaps invite Maisie round for a meal. I spent the car ride wanting to ask her if she preferred pizza or Chinese, but could not find the words. She dropped me off at a hotel on the outskirts of town and went with me to make sure I got checked in okay. The production company had paid for the room and meals. There was cable, the shower had a massage setting. This was living. As I tried the bed for springiness, I told Maisie that I already felt famous. She smiled a smile. You will be. Our market research has shown there is a real demand for our type of show. Your face will be on laptops across the world. As it appeared on the face of my happiness. Laptop? I asked. Why yes, she said, sitting on the bed right next to me, close enough to touch if I moved my hand an inch. My heart started to beat faster. I fought to focus as she went on. The show will be available exclusively on the internet, but only for those who have subscribed. She put a hand on my leg, looked into my eyes and said, You are part of the future of entertainment. I puckered up. She shook her head, got up and left. Time passed slow then. The hotel's luxury was sweet, but I kept wishing Maisie was there to share it with me. Work annoyed me more than usual, and I ended up losing my temper and resigning on the spot. Back at the hotel, I ordered a bottle of bourbon on room service and thought about what Maisie had said about being part of the future. As the drink slipped down real easy, I saw how I could turn this one appearance into a career. I would give interviews, be invited onto chat shows, there would be a spin-off reality series just about me. This became clearer and clearer as the hotel room blurred around me. At some point, I tried phoning Al and Tom. If I couldn't have a good woman by my side, at least I could have my best buds. But they didn't pick up. I started to fall asleep, heard a gunshot, and saw a painfully bright light when my exploding head syndrome kicked in. Sitting there, woozy with a booze, but now wide awake, I made a mental note to hire the best doctors money could buy to find a cure for my condition. It would make a good standalone edition for my reality show, could even be a Christmas special. This was the last thing I remember before someone knocked on my hotel room door. It was Maisie. The scent of paradise wafted against my face as I blinked, red-eyed, and swallowed down an acidic belch. "Today's the day," she said brightly. "The day of the big reveal. Are you ready?" I smiled. "Great." As she drove me back to my house, Maisie explained what would happen. "When you arrive, the camera will record your every move. When you go into your house, you will see how it has been changed. Your reaction will be online gold. I can't wait." She took her hand off the wheel and squeezed my cheek. A few minutes later, we arrived. Nothing on the exterior looked different. The only sign of my impending celebrity was the man standing outside my house, pointing a handheld camera at me. My legs feeling wobbly, I stepped out of the car and headed towards my door. I could smell Maisie's perfume nearby, figured she was following me, but keeping out of the camera's sight. This is it, I told myself, and stepped inside. The hallway took my breath away. A pristine wooden floor shone, walls painted off-white led to the doors to my kitchen and front room. A strip light subtly embedded in the ceiling cast a gentle glow over everything. I remembered there was a camera filming me and shut my mouth. Somewhere behind me, I heard Maisie whisper, "Act naturally." I walked down the hall, entered my front room. I could have wept with happiness. My hideous sofa had gone to be replaced by a black leather recliner. A glass table stood next to this, the perfect resting place for the drink I would get from the new mahogany drinks cabinet, which I would sip while watching my new slimline widescreen TV. "Wow," I said, "wow." Then I noticed the boots that had been placed on a newly installed shelf either side of a row of shiny hardwood books. They were brown, battered leather. I moved closer to look inside one. Bile rose into my mouth at the sight of bone poking through ragged flesh. I turned away in horror, saw the wall covering. It was pale with pink blotches, and about head height there was a line of bushy hair which curled up at the edges. I puked on the brand new carpet. Gasping for breath, my mind reeled. I looked for Maisie. She was standing in a corner. The cameraman was next to her, still filming me. I pointed at her, cried out, "You turned my best friends into wallpaper and a pair of bookends?" She smiled a smile, unperturbed, then placed a hand on the cameraman's arm. He stopped filming. She began to applaud. "Amazing, such a dramatic reaction." Then she stepped towards me and said, "The deep web awaits." I did not see the syringe in her hand until it was too late, and the needle was in my arm and the plunger pressed. Within seconds, a numbness was spreading throughout my body, and I staggered backwards, found myself falling into the recliner. Maisie was standing over me. "We just have one more piece to add, one more bare wall to beautify." She once more produced a scalpel. It seemed to shimmer in the light as she brought it closer to my face. I felt the first cut, just below my ear. I wanted to scream, wanted to beg, but I could not speak, could barely move. I was almost paralyzed. The only thing I could feel was fear. Her smile filled my vision, and she whispered, "It'll be just like falling asleep." My eyelids flickered. A gunshot exploded. A blinding light filled the world before me, and I sat bolt upright. Maisie looked shocked, stepped away for just a moment, long enough for me to lash out and grab the scalpel. I was not thinking, just acting on instinct, and was as surprised as she looked when I slashed her face with the scalpel. She collapsed to the floor, and the last thing I remember before I passed out was the cameraman dragging her backwards across the floor, leaving a trail of blood. Screw the carpet, I thought, and that was it. By the time I came round, they were gone and it was dark outside. I was alone in a house decorated with the remains of my best friends. I'm still here. I'm too scared to go outside or contact the authorities. What if they don't believe me? What if I'm arrested for murder and locked away? I need to think, need to come up with a plan. In the meantime, I have one thing to ask. If you're online later, if you're in the dark, hidden places that exist, seeking something forbidden, something to get your pulse racing, and you see a new page for a show teasing a home makeover with a twist. If you do, please do not press subscribe.